Madam Chairwoman, appreciate the opportunity this afternoon to discuss this with this panel. Dave, you got a lot of expertise here, and I certainly appreciate your comments. Mr. Woods, your comments are very concerning to me because I've got a lot of tool and die manufacturers in my district. They rely on the aircraft industry and the automobile industry, which is really struggling in my area. 30% of them will be out of business the next 6 months. That certainly gives me a moment for pause. I don't know if we can enact anything quickly enough to help those industries to get back on their feet, but certainly I appreciate your remarks this afternoon. One of the things that I want to ask is, I know that Mr. Hederman has made some great comments with regards to tax policy. I know we're in the process and have seen this week some new tax proposals that would really impact the private small business guys here with regards to health insurance stuff to be able to pay for this. If we allow the 2001, 2003 tax cuts to expire and then put on top of them additional taxes which are being proposed, we're looking at close to 65% tax rates for small business people who 4 million of the businesses are S-corps, which are going to pay on their individual income taxes. That is going to decimate, in my judgment. I'd like for you to address that question, if you would, please.
Sure. One of the things that is always disturbing to me when I read the paper about some of the ways to pay for some of these programs, which, we all agree that we need to have programs. Everybody wants to have good health care. Everybody wants to have the clean environment. Everybody wants to take care of energy independence. All of us, absolutely. But the problem is you can't do all those things on the backs of small business. And you need to be careful about trying to do all those things before the end of the year as if there's some magic thing that happens at the end of the year. Right now, small businesses are in the worst situation they've been in probably 80 years. And to enact anything additional on top of that right now would be devastating. Having some manner, when we did the information for the automotive task force and looking at who was going to be around and who wasn't going to be around, it became clear pretty quickly that the 6-month window was imperative. And trying to find something from a standpoint of a program that could come forward now and help them was, life and death. The thought of having something additional on top of all the problems we're already trying to, sort through, essentially puts these businesses into a situation where if they're going to put their last gasp of putting their home up, if it wasn't already up, if it wasn't borrowing the kids' college fund to try to get through just to make it to the other side of this, if they thought on top of doing that to make it through this, that they were then going to have these additional taxes on top, I think a lot more are going to throw the towel in because it's a self-defeating prophecy. They really can't get there. So I can tell you from my personal experience as a business owner, again, I've only been running the association for 2 months. My whole life I've been a business owner. It would be devastating.
Well, I appreciate your position because you've actually been on both sides of the table, which gives you a very unique perspective, and I appreciate that. Mr. Mirsky, very quickly, one of the things that's concerning to me is that the community banking folks are the ones that really are the glue that holds our economy together, I believe, from the standpoint that they make the loans to small businesses, which small businesses then hire the people and develop the products and make our country go. So to me, they're the glue that holds it together, yet they are the ones who are struggling with a lot of the stuff that's going on, and the regulatory environment that we're in is a real problem. I've had some discussions with the FDIC and the Federal Reserve folks, and there seems to be a disconnect. Have you and your organization, or you and your organization, have you discussed with the FDIC, the Fed, the Comptroller, any of these regulatory groups to come up with some sort of a mindset on how to address these problems, how to work with the banks? Because there's a huge disconnect right now between what's going on in the field and what's going on in D.C. And it needs to be resolved if we're ever going to get out of this mess.
Well, absolutely, Congressman. That's a tremendous concern throughout the community banking industry of the pressure that the regulators have swung the pendulum way too far in the other direction and are stifling the bank's ability to do lending. Even banks that are well capitalized, well run, know their customers, know their small business owners in their communities. The over-regulation, the excessive examination are forcing bankers to pull in. I mean, it's a very highly regulated industry where the regulator can shut you down, and bankers that are in fear of these regulators are pulling in their lending, And that is a severe problem. It's causing a downward spiral in the ability for small businesses to get the credit that they need. So yes, something needs to be done there. We've been working very well with the regulatory agencies to make sure that regulation is fair, but also regulation is such that it doesn't stifle the ability of banks to lend.
Would the
Thank
gentleman yield for a
Yes,
second?
thank you, Madam Chairman. Chairwoman.
I hear that there are so many regulations and the regulatory burden on community banks and small banks, that there are too many regulations. But on the other hand, what caused the crisis that we are in? It was the lack of oversight or too many regulations?
Well, there is a discrepancy in the application of regulation where you had highly regulated, well-overseen community banks where their regulators are in the bank every year examining everything that they do. Then you had a lot of gray area non-bank lenders. You had a lot of Wall Street exotic products that were outside of the regulatory oversight. So with the financial regulation reform that's being presented now, we're trying to make sure that the unregulated sector of the financial industry is brought in under that same burden and regulatory oversight that is given to community financial institutions. So it was the discrepancy in the application of regulation. Many financial entities were completely unregulated or beyond the scope of what the FDIC and OCC does. So you raise an excellent point. The regulation has to be fair across the board so you don't have these gaps.
Thank you for yielding. Do you have any more questions? So, Mr.